Hey guys, how's it going? This is Abhishai here with another episode of What Israel Is. This is shaping to be a relatively short episode slash update. I will maybe a bit. I will maybe expound on the topics of the latest episode. And I will speak a bit about the news. Sadly, these weeks bring us no short supply of bad news, and news that is relative to this podcast. So, obviously, the most important one is Orlando. I feel furious about what has transpired over there. And I am all the more enraged by the way some among the American left are treating this. I know sometimes it may not appear evident from the way I'm expressing my views, but I am very much on the left. And it is for that precise reason that I find some of those expressions to be particularly angering. So I saw, for example, a demonstration outside of the White House with many gay pride banners and then some of the signs read something to the effect of "Stop wars" or "Let's all have peace." And I don't know if that was the way it was meant to be read, but it seemed to me that there was some kind of a finger pointed towards the government, as if somehow the Obama administration is to blame for example, having bombing ISIS or being part of the coalition to stop ISIS, that somehow the U.S. involvement in Arab countries is to blame for this Omar Mateen, an American, someone who's lived in America for a long time now. Another thing I've seen was posted on HuffPost Women, and that read, I don't have the text in front of me, but it was a short little text about there will be attempts to pit two vulnerable communities, one against the other, the Muslims and the LGBT. Do not let them or oppose them. That's Marxism. That is pure Marxist ideology. This idea that we have the oppressed group standing bravely against the man, the evil side, the dark side, and that whoever is oppressed, no matter of what oppressed community, to which oppressed community he belongs, he has more in common with any other oppressed person by the simple virtue of being oppressed. I find it baffling that people would believe this to be true. We do not have two communities that are pitted one against the other. We have one community that is unified by no ideology, but rather by a quality one is born with, for which the second community, which is entirely based upon ideology, hates. One of these communities one belongs to by choice, and that community has a murderous hostility towards the other for no other reason than the very quality which makes them a community to begin with, which is not a choice. And I've seen people talk about straight violence and about homophobia at large, and people saying, oh, as if the Christians are any better. Well, yeah, they kind of are. I, as a person who is mostly, well, no, I'm faithless. I believe in nothing one could call a god in any real sense. I do not have any problem with saying that Christianity is shit. And again, pardon my French. But you know, there are gradients in the world. And at this point in time, Islam is simply worse than Christianity. Islam is more problematic, as people like to say, than Christianity. Both are ideologies that espouse homophobia. But, for example, both do not act upon this homophobia the same way. To say that all evils are the same, that's simply disconnection from the world. And I sincerely hope people don't actually believe that. Another thing that's bothered me a bit about this is, and I know this is something that bothers a lot of Israelis. The whole je suis phenomena. Uh, this automatic solidarity worldwide with nations that experience, Western nations that experience terrorist attacks, coupled with this, again, sickening refusal to speak about the perpetrators and the ideology that they operate upon. But this solidarity, I do not see any I am Tel Aviv. I have never really seen I am Jerusalem. Certainly not I am Nairobi or any other non-Western city that experiences this tidal wave of Islamic terrorism. I don't have anything much to say about that. Just want people to realize what it is that they're doing when they're changing their cutesy little profile picture into something to show solidarity. Whatever. On that point, I talked about dwelling a bit about on the last episode about I don't feel that I am dwelling on historical grievances. I don't expect reparations. I don't particularly want reparations. The one nation that is mostly responsible for the immediate grievances my family has undergone has paid us reparations, or at least has paid my grandfather, my late grandfather, reparations. And to be honest, I don't have a lot against Germany. Sure, I cannot forget, won't forget what the Germans of those days had done to my family and to countless more families of Jews, of Romani, homosexuals, etc., etc., throughout Europe. It was one of the worst human tragedies that will ever ever be written. At least I hope. I have a lot more problem with, well, to begin with, I'll rephrase. As it seems to me, Hitler was for Europe a Christ figure. That is an evil thing to say, maybe. I mean it in the sense that with his advent, all of Europe has been washed from sin. Except for Germany. Germany was left to bear the entire brunt of all of Europe's sin throughout the ages. But with Hitler's coming, all is forgotten. The massacres of York, of the Rhine Valley, of Kishinev, of Odessa, massacres all over Europe, expulsions, all are forgotten. And anti-Semitism, it's just the Holocaust now. Eastern European countries feel no shame or guilt at all, generally speaking, for what they have done throughout the history to the Jews. Places like the Ukraine, which has named main streets and town squares after a person who has committed one of the worst of the pogroms in history against the Jews. And that is to say nothing about Bandera. And Hungary, throughout the streets of Hungary, Jobbik patrols through Budapest looking for anybody who might appear Jewish or otherwise to be an immigrant. So in Eastern Europe, you have people who are unrepentantly still anti-Semitic, feel absolutely no shame over their part in the history of Jewish grievances and suffering. And in Western and Central Europe, we have nations that are willing on the paper to say that anti-Semitism is horrible and that the Holocaust was the travesty that it was, but feel no particular responsibility for their part in either the Holocaust itself or 1,000 years of persecution. There can be no forgiving those who do not beg forgiveness. And it is that reason that I at least feel that to an extent it's not that Germany has settled the score or anything, but they are far more worthy of empathy, or there is a dialogue there between Germany and its history with the Jews and with the Jews itself. And I do not feel that with any other European country. I do not see France feeling any remorse for what the French crown has done and what the Vichy administration has done, I do not see that England as particularly remorseful for its gruesome history towards the Jews. That's that for this week. I'm sorry for continuing on this gloomy trip. I think I'm going to start talking more about Israel as it is today, or at least the recent history, on the following episodes. Until then, have an awesome weekend, and I'll see you guys soon.